Okay, so do a lot with Copilot. I'm trying to get even better on Copilot, or Copilot Studio to be specific. And I also work a lot with Microsoft Fabric and a bunch of the Azure plain stuff as well. So I was thinking for a lot of my customers, they run a Microsoft Fabric and they have to like scale up or scale down. Or in my case, I like to turn my fabric capacity off. So when I'm gone for the weekend doing whatever I want to do, um, I'm not burning through, $3, $4, $5 every hour on just having it sitting running. So I said, well, for my own use case, what would really help me save money for the company for the subscriptions that we're running Microsoft Fabric on? We have a few people running Fabric in my role, helping customers across the world, and also, um, helping them get through questions that are not explicitly laid out. And one of them was, automatically rescaling or sizing fabric capacities. So let's start sharing some screens, and we're going to show you what we're going to do is, basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a run book and an automation account it'll turn a fabric capacity off and then turn it back on again at a scheduled time, or could be called directly from a Copilot Studio job. So little background on that. I'll share my screen and do this one here. And don't need to log into that right now. So when we're looking at fabric capacity, as far as the API sets we can call on it, it's through management.azure.com. And we need to give it a subscription and a resource group name, and then the capacity name. And then some of the things we can do on that is we can resume it, and we can suspend it, and we can update it, and we can change the SKU as well. So if we go to create or update, we'll see down here we've got options to change the SKU name, etc. So um, we've got an API, right? So we can call that, um, and then start messing with that. So um, if I go into Azure, and let me go and pick my account, and this is a production instance. It's not a production. This is my test instance as well, right? So I have a resource group, and in that resource group, I created a automation account, which is I'm calling the calls from Copilot Studio. And in that, I created a number of different test um, run books to work with. So if I do stop fabric capacity, I can look at there. I then edit it. I'll edit it in the portal. I'm not going to bring it into into Visual Studio Code. So I need some operations, right? I need some subscription name numbers, and it needs the name of the resource, etc. And it's going to be authenticating into my Azure token, or into my Azure tenant with my ID. So not too concerned about the number of my subscription ID being in here, but I'll try not to post it too much. So basically, we're just going to um, get a hold of that, and we're going to connect to it, and then we're going to craft a URL, partial URL, and I create that here. And here's where I pass in my subscription ID, and I concatenate some strings. And so resource groups, providers, resource group name, and the capacity name. So those are the variables I put in, and then I'm going to post it down here when I uh, fully pull out the whole URL to pass it to the automation group, right? So I work in the automation account first, and I'll create that. And then once I've tested it in Azure, and I can test it in the test pane here, and I'll just turn it on and we start it, right? And if we need options, we would just give it the options. Like if we want to have it start or stop, I can do both ways. Either way, I can also give a different subscription name. So all those variables from the API can be passed in. The resource group name, the name of the resource, fabric capacity X, whatever it is, and the subscription ID. And then we can do this things because it's basically, this is set to start or stop, and this has been specifically tailored for stop, but I can also make a one that uses a variable to either start it or stop it as I go through it. So when I come into that, so how I started on that was I was looking at my automation accounts, and I'll go back to my automation account and go into the automation, and then I want to look at run books, and I'm going to create a new run book. I'm not actually going to do it, but I would create a new run book, and I wanted to browse from the gallery. So I click here on browse from the gallery, and I just type in fabric, and we'll see what I can find, right? And so I found this one here, not the Python, the PowerShell one. And I was looking at the parameters, and it was taking a resource ID in the operations suspend or resume. And so I was playing with this, and it just didn't work. And I found out there's an issue, this right there. It should have another /. So that's missed in the gallery on there. And I contacted the person who had it, and I'm gonna post these links in here. This is on GitHub. It's a public GitHub repository, and there's actually really good instructions on doing this exact thing, where I can pull this in. It tells you how to run it, how to do, etc. I don't know if that's a typo or not, so I says that's great. And I also published a version. I sent an update on that to have it checked out and put it out. But I also published it on my own GitHub so I can pull it in rather easily. And I know it works now. And I can use a number of parameters where I can do start or stop, or suspend, resume, right, of a fabric capacity. I can give it multiple subscriptions that the fabric capacities may be running under. In my tenant, we've got, I think, 3 paid fabric capacities going, not trial subscriptions, but paid subscriptions. So I'm going to focus on just my subscription and the resource group name that my capacity is running under. And I will build out, basically just like the example I got from the automation, looking at the portal there and pulling one in. I basically took that, modified it a little bit, and I fixed the missing backslash here. And then that gives me the code I want. And so when I'm running this, I want to make sure I test it in the portal here. And then once it's done, I'll go to, let's go here to this one here. I'm going to edit here. I'm going to edit in the code, edit in the portal. So I get like a sort of a secure PowerShell that just runs in the Azure space. And it also allows me the ability to run it here. I can give it the parameters. In this case, I only defaulted that these are the mandatory ones that need to be passed in: suspend or resume, right? We're going to stop it, we're going to start it, and I can start it under test. So I've been through all that. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to put the GitHub link to the code. But what we do is we have to have an automation account, and we have to create a run book, whether it's to resize the fabric capacity at a certain time or to start or stop the capacity at a certain time. We need to get that in there, and we have to make sure they're published. So if I look at the thing, I will come back into, for some reason, I went back into edit mode, it would show it as published. So let me just go back and publish it again, and I'll publish it, and I'll say yes. Kind of critical when we go to the Copilot Studio agents process that it's published, right? Otherwise, you're going to have failures, and I had some failures on there. So let's assume you pull down the GitHub, you got it deployed, you tested in Azure, you're done here we don't need to talk, to go to Azure anymore because it's there. Or someone gives you address for a run book that you want to run, we could just start there. But this is essentially how we started up, trying to be real fast here. So let me kill that, and I won't need that. And then I come to Home Copilot Studio and say, what do I want to do? I want to call an Azure automation account to call a run book at a specific time. Yeah, we'll just do it. Be a little more pedantic every day, right? Fix that. Doesn't really matter. So this is how we started. We got a run book in Azure. I want to use Copilot Studio to toggle that. I can use a toggle on. In this case, I want it to turn off every night at 7, 8 o'clock. Usually when I'm done working is by 7, I'm usually done, except for those rare cases we all have. So I'll let it go do its thing, and it'll start spinning it up, and it'll give me two things, a trigger and where did it go? I still gotta wait for it to spin up. So let me just go over to that. So we go to my flows. I'll go to it spun up, right? So I have one I did from half an hour ago. So I'm going to call a run book. And that's actually the prompt I used the first time. Call a run book from an Azure automation account on a daily basis. And I come to see what I do. I got a recurrence. Close the Copilot window. And then I set it for every day, whatever I want. Time zone, set it for my time zone, needs to be content cognizant of my time zone. I don't want to turn it off in the middle of a presentation I'm doing, and we have a 24-hour clock to set it from, right? So 7 plus 12, 1930 hours, and so it's going to run there. And then I do a create job, right? So now it asks me for the job. So I'm going to give it the name of my subscription. I have a number of subscriptions available, but that Fabric resource I'm running is in my subscription, so we want to keep it in the right context. And it's going to give me the name of the resource group, and that's my agent automation resource group. And I'm going to give it the name of the automation account. It's calling from Copilot Studio. And then I have a number of parameters I could use. So I'm not using a hybrid automation worker group. I'm just using the straight, normal, plain Azure runbook, right? I'm not doing the hybrid automation at all. I give it the name of the runbook I want to use. It found the stop, it found the start, it found the start stop. So if I just use that one, I'm going to toggle it to wait for the job to finish. And then here's where I could add parameters in there if I wanted to pass them in and override the parameters. Definitely if you have some default parameters set up in the job where they're mandatory, we definitely want to put those in. And from my page here, like GitHub site, mandatory equals true. So I don't set any value to it. I just define it, right? The other ones, I've set them and I define them here. In this case, because I'm making it mandatory, that one is required by the user to enter when they call the run job, the run job here. So that's going to be mandatory if I have it defined that way. And I've been playing with it a lot. So it'll use everything else I have. Most people may not want to have to change that a lot. Most people may only have one Fabric capacity. They can hard code all of this. And then just use this to suspend or resume. And the idea is you would come back here and you would create an automation for starting it, in my case, 7:30 at night. And then I usually start around 7 to 8 in the morning. So I want my Fabric capacity to start to be available for me. So if I have to demo anything, it's already running up and running by the time I, clock into work. And then I don't have to wait to have it spin up, because it does take sometimes, depending on your size, your Fabric capacity to spin up, right? So I'm waiting for the job. We're going to give it instructions, etc. I'm going to give it the arguments. I'm going to suspend. It could be suspend or resume. Name of the capacity, the actual name we see from the Fabric portal side, and then the resource group that capacity sits in. So we need the subscription, the action we're taking, the name of the capacity, and the resource that it goes through. So if I look at that, and then I just test it, so I'll test it. I think the Fabric capacity is up and going. Um, let's just see. And then I'm going to test it from here. So I go and get to my Fabric capacity, and it's paused. And so this is going to stop it, right? So it's going to stop it. So I'll just resume it. And we'll wait a minute for it to resume. And then it started. So now it's ready for a pause. So if we come back to this, and God, I hope this works. We all know that these kind of things don't always work. I'm going to suspend it. And so I'm going to publish it. I've already been through this, so if it fails, it's something I messed up in there, but we're just gonna work with it. And then we'll test it. I'm gonna do a manual test. Come on. There we go. That button always triggers me because when this pops up, it's already set for manual, and I come down here and it turns off. So we'll do test. And then we'll run the flow. And then we wait. It's gonna pop up for a window to watch the flow run pages. We'll go here and we'll look at it and we'll see where it's going. And you see I succeeded a few other times, and then we'll go watch what's happening here. It's really exciting to watch what's happening when it's actually doing its business. And what we're looking for is that to change from pause automatically. So I'm not going to click on that button. And we're just waiting for it. It's talking from Copilot Studio space, and it's calling out to the automation job in my Azure account. Everything goes right. My Fabric capacity is going to be paused, and I'm running, I think, an F2 or an F4 on that. So, a couple dollars, overnight, $5, $10 overnight. But, it adds up, right? Mostly, like I was talking about earlier, is mostly people are looking at scaling Fabric capacity up during the week and then scaling it back down, right? And there's good reasons to do that, but one always has to be conscious of the cost of doing that. And we should really look at, if you need to do that a lot, the Fabric capacity should actually be larger, because then you can get some cost savings by doing reservations on the Azure. But that's a different subject, which I can address too. And do a refresh on here, and it should be paused. So now it's back to, it's on resume again. So that means it's turned off. So it did what it's supposed to. I'm real happy with that. And that's about it. I'm gonna publish this out on YouTube or whatever. Put the link to that in my LinkedIn, and then I'll make sure to put the thing for the GitHub there. Other than that, if you all have any questions, hit me up on the LinkedIn. I can walk you through some of that, time depending. And you'll have the source code for the automation job. Pop that in there, change your variables to match, the parameters, subscription, resource group, the name of the capacity, etc. And if you want to do the auto scaling with it, then you'll have a will be way farther ahead than starting from scratch. And that's what I'm mostly trying to do is do really interesting things. And we're using Copilot Studio to control a Fabric capacity and shut it off and shut it down. And I'll stop sharing. Stop sharing.